Update. Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister and husband pay for their IVF treatment using my inheritance, despite having no immediate use for it? Original story. So, I am 25 female and my sister Ella is 31 female. My husband is Tom and her husband is John. Ella is bisexual, and our parents were religious AF. So when she brought home a girlfriend in high school, they kicked her out, and she never got an inheritance when our mom died. The both of us had cut contact with our parents, but I still decided to accept the money because I figured it's the one good thing to come out of our abusive life. So why not? The legal side of things were finalized a week ago. Ella and John came to see me while Tom was at work and told me they wanted to talk about something important. They said that they had exhausted all of their fertility money and didn't have enough to try IVF again. I could see where this was going, so I just said, "I'm sorry, Ella. I understand." I was thinking about this as well, and Tom thinks this is the right thing to do too. You should have half of the money. You deserve it. John tells me that's not what they wanted to talk about, but that they wanted all of the money. I'm a bit taken aback. Apparently, half won't be enough. I tell them that I was going to use my part, or if she didn't want to have all of it, for my daughter's college fund, and another fund for her to use for whatever she wishes during her teen years. I remind Ella that we always promised each other our children will be financially well off because we never had that growing up. Where I live, college is extremely expensive. So despite my daughter being only 3, Tom and I wanted to start this for her. I tell Ella and John all of this, and Ella's just very upset at this point. John is more willing to have a conversation though. She comes back from the kitchen and says I'm rubbing the fact that I'm a mother in her face. I'm angry by this point because I thought she loved my daughter like her own. Ella said I was sabotaging her and that I owe her for looking after me when we were kids. John said since Ella faced more struggles, she deserved it all, despite knowing full well our parents hurt me regularly as well. I was just not prepared to fight. My daughter needed my attention, and I wanted Tom to be by my side because Ella was acting aggressive. I asked them to leave and called Tom. We discussed this again and agreed we should give them the money. Ella calls me and I pick up and she tells me she has to try again and that her relationship is rocky because they're frustrated that they can't have a kid. I told her I would not give her the entire amount and just hung up. I feel guilty about all of this now, but I don't know if I should. Maybe since I don't have an immediate use for the money, I should have given it to her? Am I an a-hole? Top comments before reading the update. You should have half of the money. You deserve it. John tells me that's not what they wanted to talk about, but that they wanted all of the money. What the heck? You offered an equal split and she went, "Nope, I want it all." It is trying to pull out every emotional manipulative tool in the book to get what she wants. Seems like she turned out more like her mother than she'd like to admit. You're not an a-hole, and you should just flat out tell her that if either her or John brings up wanting more than half ever again, they'll get nothing. IVF is crazy expensive too, and unfortunately it doesn't always work. OP, what would happen if you hypothetically give Ella the money and the IVF doesn't work? I still think you're not an a-hole, since she's entitled to half and you're entitled to yours as well. Legally, Ella's entitled to nothing, so this kind of foolishness is just something else. I missed the bit at the end where Ella's saying her and her husband's relationship is rocky and want to try again for that reason. OP did not give her the money. Children should never be used as a way to stabilize a rocky relationship. You have a point. Thank you for pointing that out. Not an a-hole. I think you were right and fair to offer to split the money with her, but in no way should she get all of it. This is the chance for you to ensure your child's future, and as her mother, it's only right for you to do so. Ella can look for alternate ways to become a mother that doesn't involve spending your part of the inheritance. Fertility problems are super unfortunate, but it doesn't give her the right to take your daughter's college money. I think some of her friends have suggested that in the past, but she has always wanted a biological child of her own, similar to a normal pregnancy. Thank you for your help. And now for the update. Hello. I apologize for the update being so late, almost a month. I got caught up with everything that was going on, but now that I have a moment, I thought I'd write this since a lot of you guys still want an update. I got a lot of helpful tips. I also understood that I was so not an a-hole. The relief I felt was huge, so thanks for helping me out. I didn't reach out to Ella or John like I initially planned, now that I knew I had nothing to apologize for. A few days after, though, John came over, alone, to my house and apologized for what Alice said. But I was dumb for thinking they would stop there because John asked me about the money again. They still felt like they deserved all the money. Luckily for me, I did not have to deal with all of this for the second time since Tom was home, and they talked. It ended with John threatening to sue and whatnot. Ella began posting the nastiest things on Facebook, and it was embarrassing to explain everything to my friends. I just felt like I had to cut off contact. They were being aggressive and just overall horrible to my family. I told Ella that I did not want to have contact with her anymore, and blocked them all. Ella showed up with John again though, this time asking for half of the money. Tom and I talked about this, and we decided not to give them anything. We offered it to them, even after the incident, and all they did was insult us. We're going to use it for our daughter's future. So, I know that's a sad update, but I got messages yesterday asking for one that I thought I'd still make a post. We talked to our lawyer and they can't really do anything legally, and they probably won't even try because they have no money. To clarify some things, some people mentioned how IVF is not that expensive, but Ella chose a very particular clinic. It's their second time doing this cycle, and so they decided to go for a more expensive option, though I don't know why, hence why they needed more than their half. At least this is what they told me. We had a poor childhood, but got a big inheritance because our parents were rich. They just didn't spend any money on us. A lot of you think setting up a teen fund for my daughter would spoil her, but it's not for anything she might want for fun. It's just an emergency fund that we wanted to set up so she could use it until she turns 18 in case of emergencies, or if she wants a car, or for traveling, and other things not related to college. I think by cutting them off you made the best and healthiest choice for your family. Insulting people isn't a way to convince them to hand money over to you. Glad you understand you absolutely are not the a-hole here. For their family too, probably. If they can't afford the treatment to have the child, isn't it a safe assumption they can't afford to raise the child? Sad to hear that, but it sometimes happens. It's probably for the best that they don't use a baby to fix the marriage. If a relationship is rocky, a baby is not a band-aid. Healthy and solid relationships can weather this kind of storm. Thinking a baby can fix it usually just speeds up the dissolution of the relationship. Thank you for the update. I'm so glad you stood firm. Ella and John's behavior says a lot about who they are as people. Obviously, your relationship didn't mean much to them. I'm sorry you had to deal with online harassments, as well as them showing up unannounced at your home. Have you considered getting a restraining order? Thank you. Not really. Tom did mention it, but for the past 2 days, they haven't bothered us at all. So hopefully this is the end of all of this oof. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my father the house my grandmother left me? Some important context. My father left me when I was 10. I came home from school one day and he was gone and I was alone. My grandmother eventually took me in. But that moment gave me issues that I'm still working through. My grandmother passed away and was buried a couple of weeks ago, and I saw my father for the first time in 14 years at his mother's funeral. After the will was read, we learned that my grandmother left me her property. My father was furious. Apparently, he feels he has more rights to her property than I do because she was his mother. He's been harassing me to hand over the property to him and promising that when he dies, I can have it. I don't want to give him the property because if my grandmother wanted him to have it, she would have put it in her will. My father has been going around telling the family that I stole his mother's property right from under him, and I'm trying to punish him for leaving me. My family have been reaching out to tell me that even if he abandoned me, that I shouldn't forget the importance of filial piety, and how being good to my father even if he isn't good to me is what makes a good daughter. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong, but the comments and the suggestions are beginning to wear me down. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You are not the a-hole. You owe your father nothing for walking out on you. Don't even engage with him. Block his number if you have to. If he attempts to confront you in person, walk away. Put all your relatives on blast and tell them that the matter has been decided, that you're keeping the house, and that you will block anyone who attempts to continue discussing the topic. A fire can burn without oxygen, so starve this issue of all its fuel. All of this. Did you plot at 10 years old to have your father move away while you weren't there, so that many years later after your grandmother's passing you might get given her house? No, I'm pretty sure that was not your plan. Your father is an AITA, and so are the family defending him. I agree to put them on blast, that you never asked for the house. But equally, why would you give what's yours to a man who left a literal child alone? 100% not the a-hole. Lock him and maybe also change the locks on the off chance he still has a key. Yes, change the locks. Protect yourself. Your grandmother left you the house. It's yours. Don't trust him to do what's right now. He's never done so before. Not the a-hole, 100%. Being good to my father even if he isn't good to me is what makes a good daughter. Why would you want to be a good daughter in these circumstances? It sounds like you hardly know him. Not the a-hole. Stay strong. And by the way, that is not what stealing is, unless you can steal from yourself. This argument also bugs me because what about being a good granddaughter? This is clearly what Opie's grandmother wanted. Doesn't that logic make the father a bad son for going against his mother's wishes? Not the a-hole, 100%. Not the a-hole. Even if he had suggested that your grandmother disinherit your father for abandoning you, you would not be the a-hole. Your grandmother left her house to you because she wanted you to have it. End of story. Your father must have had little, if any, contact with your grandmother the past 14 years if she raised you, and you didn't see him again until the funeral. His choice to abandon his responsibility to you meant that she ended up taking over. There is zero chance of you inheriting the house when your father dies. If he doesn't sell it and squander the money, it'll be left to a love interest or be your buddy or something. Keep your house. The woman who parented you wanted you to have it. I'd be interested in knowing if in addition to Opie keeping the house, they could report the abandonment to CPS and file for years of child support that erode. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my son-in-law out after he requested that I give my daughter more money than her younger sister due to circumstances? I'm a single father of two, Claire 25 female and Jess 19 female. Claire's husband and I have formal relationship, but frankly, neither me nor Jess like spending too much time with him. But we're very, very cordial. He came over and sat with me and Jess for coffee. We talked about weather, politics, and daily issues. Then he out of nowhere started talking about my assets. I felt a bit bothered discussing stuff like that, but I was happy to answer a few questions he had. I said I was planning on selling my 2 properties and use money for my upcoming surgery, and the rest will be split equally between my daughters beside the house as mentioned in my will. He talked about how unfair he thought it was that both sisters get equal inheritance, asking me to take under consideration the fact that both are at very different stages in life. For example, Claire has family to support and medical expenses, debts to cover and is a stay-at-home mom, while Jess is single, plans on being child-free, has a job already. Besides, Jess will probably waste money irresponsibly on greedy guys' dates instead of an investment. Jess got uncomfortable, and I responded that Claire's circumstances won't change anything in my will, and decision is taken. He said, Jesus, you seem to enjoy blaming Claire for making a decision to start a family at a young age, don't you? Then went on about my grandchildren and my obligation towards them and their future. I said yes, those are my grandkids, but am I the one responsible for providing them? He tried to politely explain that I should help him and Claire out, and asked me to reconsider giving my Claire more than half while Jess gets less. I politely but firmly stated Jess deserves as much as her older sister gets since she's young and she needs help with college debt still. I asked him to respect my decision wanting my will to be executed the way I wanted, and that I don't want him to make such unnecessary fuss about it later. He just smug-smiled and sarcastically said, I guess you'll just have to die and we'll see then. I was shocked, like was this a joke? I got upset and stood up and pointed at the door and told him I was having none of these half-polite, half-mean conversations anymore. I'd asked him to please leave. Jess asked me to take it easy, but it was already too late and the argument escalated. He said he was hurt by me kicking him out for just making a suggestion, and that I was holding in all this hate for him, and finally found an excuse to insult him. He told Claire about how I kicked him out for just pointing out that I'm not doing enough for my family. I get they're struggling, but I couldn't ignore how dismissive he was towards Jess acting like she doesn't have a life. We're known to be cordial, so to hear I kicked him out was a shock to my family. Legally, I got nothing to worry about, but morally, I don't think I handled this conflict the way I was supposed to. It sounds to me like you handled as well as possible. You practically threatened a challenge to your will. Poor Jess. He sounds like he'll be a nightmare down the line. Not stay home. OP, you better make sure your will is ironclad, because he will either challenge your will or bully Jess into giving him the money. If you have to put Jess's money into a trust that only pays out a certain amount every month. Not stay home. Trust funds for both daughters might be even better. You were right. I did need to reconsider my will, and have updated it accordingly. Half of my assets will go to Jess. The other half will go into a trust to be split equally among Claire's children, not to be accessed until they are 25 and living on their own with the exception of funds paid directly to an accredited college, university, or technical school. Further details include that if Jess should predecease me, her half of the inheritance will be donated to charity. Thank you for bringing my attention to this matter. Not today, home. My word. He's just waiting for you to die so he can get your money. That's horrible. The other half will go into a trust to be split equally among Claire's children, not to be accessed until my son-in-law is declared legally dead. If Claire and her husband are just waiting around for Opie to die to get access to his money, it might make sense to have their kids be in the position of waiting around for their dad to die. Not today, home. Why can't he support his wife? Sounds like a deadbeat loser. I was wondering the same thing. Why is Opie responsible for providing for his grandchildren? Shouldn't it be up to the parents to provide for the children they choose to have? I don't know if it's just an over-representation of the people who post on Reddit, but I have seen a lot of posts with over-entitled people who seem to think their family or friends have a responsibility to provide or care for their children. Am I the a-hole for laughing in my sister-in-law's face when she DNA tested my daughter? I, 30 male, have a daughter who is 6. I am not biologically related to her at all. There is no blood relation between us. I was friends with her mother for most all of my childhood. We were never involved romantically and were always just friends. She had her daughter at 23 with her 25-year-old husband. When my daughter was a newborn, about 3 months technically, both her mother and father were killed. I won't go into too much detail for privacy reasons, but it was workplace shooting. My friend and her husband had worked in the same building and were both killed. Both my friend and her husband had grown up with less than ideal families and didn't have any siblings, so there wasn't any next of kin for their daughter to go to. However, because I was close with them, I was able to adopt her. Even though I had been iffy about the idea of kids, I didn't want their daughter to grow up in foster care or around people who didn't have a connection to her bio parents, so I stepped in. My parents and siblings know that my daughter is not my actual daughter biologically speaking. My daughter, I'll call Lily for the post, also knows that she's adopted. I never really hid the fact that she was adopted. She knows her parents are gone and were killed by a bad man, but I'm saving the details for when she's older. Lily does not look like me at all. She looks exactly like her mother and biological dad. Most people assume that I'm her bio dad and that she just took after her mom. I don't ever really correct this when and if people assume this because it just seems unnecessary. My brother has been with his fiancée for about 2 years now. A few weeks ago, we were all meeting up at my parents' house, and my sister-in-law saw an old picture of me, my friend, and her husband. She pointed to my friend and asked who she was, and I explained that she was Lily's mother. Sister-in-law got quiet and stood in front of the picture for a while. I didn't think much of it. To clarify, she knows my friend died, but I guess didn't know that she had been married or that Lily is not my bio daughter. I suppose she assumed my daughter was mine and my friend's biological daughter. My sister-in-law got a DNA test done on my daughter behind my back. She used my brother's DNA for the test, and when it came back that they weren't related, she knew that meant me and Lily weren't related. She came up to me with the results and waved them in my face, saying that I was taking care of a dead woman's affair baby. She said this to me in front of my daughter. I just stared at her for a while before bursting out laughing at this. I told her I knew Lily wasn't my biological daughter and that this thing called adoption exists. Her face went red and she stormed off. My brother is mad I embarrassed his fiancée, but I said she embarrassed herself by DNA testing a kid that isn't hers and then parading the results up to me. What did she want me to do? What was her goal with this? Did she want me to break down and abandon my daughter? My brother said she thought she was doing the right thing and called me an a-hole. I don't feel like the a-hole, especially considering my sister-in-law was the one who stuck her nose where it doesn't belong. I'm asking for Reddit opinions, mostly just for validation. So was I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates.
saying that I was taking care of a dead woman's affair baby. Did she not understand that the photo she saw was of the dead woman and her husband? Did she assume you were somehow married to the dead woman? Aren't you presently married to your very much alive wife? Literally, all this could have been avoided if she asked, or if you shared. Those are my daughter's bio parents, who sadly passed away. We were good friends, so I adopted their daughter. You shouldn't have to tell people things or correct them every time, but it can help when you do. I can see how she assumed that we were together. In the picture, I had my arm around her shoulders. This was before my friend was married to her husband. At the time that picture was taken, they were just friends. Not the a-hole. She wanted to stir some stuff up. That's a heck of a lot of effort to help. Also, I'd be mad about how she got Lily's DNA to do this. It didn't go the way she thought it would, so she got mad. Your brother is just trying to side with his soon-to-be wife. Also be ticked she revealed the truth in front of Lily. She deliberately tried to hurt the child. That's what get me the most. What if Lily hadn't known she was adopted? Heck, what if Lily had been conceived with a sperm donor? There are so many reasons that this was none of that woman's business, and she stuck her nose into it in the worst way possible by waving the results around in front of people. She could have talked to her fiancé first, but must not have because Opie says his siblings know she's adopted. Instead of his brother being mad at Opie, he should be mad as heck at his fiancé. This would also ruin all credibility that woman has with me for anything. Anytime she brings something up, I would from now forward think she's being aforementioned drama cauldron or just making up stories she's decided must be shared as the gospel truth. I need to add this. She did this in front of your daughter to maximize the damage she thought she was exposing. That is straight up evil. OP is the least not the a-hole ever. Fiancé must be very young and still in high school mentality, but with adult resources. Who bring information like this up to everyone? She wanted a scene and she got one. High school mentality but with adult resources. This is a great phrase. I'm glad I learned this one today. Now for the first update. My sister-in-law ended up coming to my house and apologizing, as well as telling me the full story. My brother put her up to the DNA test. When I first adopted Lily, my brother for some reason believed that Lily was my bio daughter. He thought that me and Lily's mom were together and just weren't telling anyone. He believes that when she got pregnant, Lily's mom told me that Lily was mine and that she was going to just say that it was her husband's, and I went along with it because I didn't really want kids. Sister-in-law was under the impression I believed I was Lily's bio dad. She saw the picture of Lily's mom and I, and after asking for clarification on who she was, assumed we were together in it, and then got suspicious when she saw that the other guy in the picture, Lily's actual bio dad, looked a lot like Lily. I also want to clarify, I didn't tell her that Lily's bio dad was in the picture because she had specifically pointed to Lily's mom, and I assumed she knew that Lily was adopted. I didn't know my brother had been telling her lies for nearly 2 years. She got the DNA test out of her own suspicions, and my brother helped her with it because he thought it would reveal that I was actually Lily's bio dad. He manipulated her into thinking that it would clear the air of suspicion, when really, he was just trying to prove that I was really Lily's bio dad and lying about the reasons for adoption. Well, of course the results proved I wasn't Lily's bio dad, and my brother was wrong. My brother felt too embarrassed to confess to his fiancée that he had lied about the circumstances, which is why sister-in-law confronted me with the results. My sister-in-law also apologized for showing me the results in front of my daughter. She told me that her mom had an affair and cheated on her father, got pregnant with another man's kid, and had let her father believe the kid was his. Her father was devastated by this when he found out, and she grew very resentful of women who do that to their spouses. She had wanted to sit me down and talk to me about it with my daughter, but when she saw me with my daughter, she got angry thinking I was being led on to believe I was raising my daughter when I was actually raising another man's kid, and she ended up exploding and immediately waved the results in my face. My sister-in-law does feel very guilty, and she's angry at my brother for lying to her. I'm not angry at her for doing the test because she thought she was doing the right thing. I also forgave her for the way she told me about the results because clearly affairs are a sensitive subject for her, and I can understand why she would have exploded like that. I'm pretty sure she plans to break up with my brother now, and I don't blame her. When I called and asked my brother about this, he admitted it. When I asked why he would think this, he said that he couldn't think of a reason why a man who had been against having kids at a time would willingly adopt a baby without having a blood connection to it. He told sister-in-law that I was Lily's bio dad and was aware of the fact. He took it a step further and said that me and Lily's mom were together at the time of Lily's conception. Both me and my parents are going low contact with my brother for a while now. I know I will forgive my brother eventually, but I can't do that right now. He believed I was low enough to have an affair with a married woman, get her pregnant, take no responsibility, allow her to pass off the kid as another man's, and then only take responsibility because her mom died. Both your brother and sister-in-law are getting off too lightly. He butted into your family and lied to his wife. And sensitive issue or not, she still violated your daughter's privacy, then called her an affair child derisively in front of her. Yeah, for real. His daughter is hurt by this, not OP. OP has every right to slap his brother at Christmas. Slap and press charges, because they did not have authorization from the minor's parent to harvest the minor's DNA. OP, your a-hole brother called your child it. How in the heck is this forgivable? Why just low contact? Some people were saying I should sue and or press charges on her. I don't want to do that. She was manipulated into doing this. And I don't want to deal with the hassle. I honestly just want to put this whole thing behind me and move on. When I asked why he would think this, he said that he couldn't think of a reason why a man who had been against having kids at a time would willingly adopt a baby without having a blood connection to it. Your brother really showing his whole ass here. Your brother was both a terrible sibling and partner. He riled up his fiancée based on her trauma in order to enlist her to help in deceiving you. Awful. I really want to stress this point. Took the words right out of my mouth. I'm not mad at my sister-in-law because I know she was manipulated into doing this by my brother. I wish more people could understand that. You're a bigger person than I am. Everything is on your brother except for the crude announcement in front of the 6-year-old. You're all Lily has a parent. Your smooth reaction is the only thing that stopped sister-in-law's actions from being devastating. Second update. Some people were wondering what happened with my brother and sister-in-law. Well, she dumped him. They tried to make it work, but that only lasted a few days and she ended up giving him the ring back. My brother got face drunk on my front lawn in the middle of the night. I was angry because Lily had school the next morning and this woke her up. My brother was yelling insults to both me and my daughter. We called police and he spent the night in jail for drunken disturbance. I believe the official charge was something like that. I sure as heck pressed charges because he was saying some borderline threatening statements to me and my daughter. I don't think it's enough to qualify for a restraining order, but if it is, I'll get a temporary one. On a more positive note, Lily is doing well. She's getting straight A's in every subject and is excited about her first ever science project. She's been talking my ear off about it. Send help. Lol. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my son out of our house? So here's the deal. My 23-year-old son got lucky with some money, about $200,000 from a windfall, and since then, he's been coasting. He doesn't have a job, doesn't even try to get one, and worst of all, refuses to contribute to anything around the house. We're talking bills, groceries, even basic stuff like helping with chores. He just sits around all day playing video games or hanging out with his friends, and anytime I bring up the idea of pitching in, he just brushes me off with some excuse about how he's figuring things out. I've given him more than enough chances to step up. I ask him to at least pay some rent or cover his own food expenses, but he straight up refused. I'm not asking for much, just a little bit of responsibility, since he's living under my roof rent-free. I try to have a calm conversation about how things need to change, but he got defensive, saying that it's his money and he can do what he wants with it. I don't want to sound greedy, but it's not fair that I'm still paying for everything while he's sitting on a small fortune. After months of this back and forth, I finally told him he needed to start contributing or find somewhere else to live. He thought I was bluffing, but when he still refused, I packed up his stuff and told him to go. Now he's crashing at a friend's place and telling everyone I'm being unreasonable and unsupportive. Some family members are saying I should have just let it go, since he's young and has money, but I feel like he's taking advantage of me. I just want him to act like an adult and not mooch off me forever. So, am I the a-hole for kicking him out? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your son is taking advantage of you. He would have continued. Sometimes you gotta baby bird kids out of house. He's 23. He's not a child. He's young. But if he thinks he's adult enough to stiff his landlord, he deserves the wake-up call. It's his money. He can spend it on what he wants. If he wants to sleep on couches and have no home, but have $200 in the bank, he's an adult. Let him. He will figure it out. But he's gonna figure it out on his time. No reason to continue wasting yours while he catches up to reality. I would have booted him, and as my mom always said and as I tell my stepkids, I'm your parent and I will always love you no matter what. But sometimes I don't like who you choose to be. My mom tells all of us the same thing. Hers is, I love you but I don't like you right now. This was literally part of my vows with my husband. I vowed to always love him, as love is an active choice. I knew there would be times I wouldn't like him, and those are rare, but they happen. You are not the a-hole. Your son is an adult and needs to take responsibility. You were more than generous to allow him to live rent-free and contribute nothing. It's your house and your rules, and he needs to respect that. I've seen more 23-year-olds than I care to admit display impeccable and yet radical decision-making abilities. He shouldn't be any different, and anyone trying to steer him towards the direction of that possibility isn't an a-hole. Not a-hole. You did not kick out somebody who was going to be broke and homeless. He has the financial means to take care of himself. He is a whole grown-up now, and he can provide for himself. It is not your job to endlessly cover his living expenses while he has fun money. The money will run out, and when it does, it would encourage you to not let him move back in. He has more than enough funds to start and maintain his adult life while he finds himself.
Update. Neighbor was catfishing women using husband's photos. Original post. My husband 35 male and I 30 female were married for 8 years but have been separated for the last 14 months. And I need help and advice on how to rekindle our relationship. We are currently not in speaking terms and all our arrangements go through our lawyers. But I will have an opportunity over Christmas to clear the air and set things straight, as he will be flying in from Sydney to spend time with the kids. So what happened? I received a Facebook message in September last year that my husband was talking and exchanging naked photos with other women on Tinder. We spoke on the phone for a bit, and the only proof she had was a screenshot of their conversations and his profile. Long story short, I downloaded Tinder and found his profile, with his location less than 1 kilometer away. I was convinced that he was cheating, and we had a terrible fallout that evening which led to my family coming over to calm the situation. But instead, it escalated when my brother punched and grabbed hold of my husband. The neighbors called the police and my husband was asked to pack a few things and stay elsewhere for a while. We separated shortly after, and he has since moved to Sydney to be closer to his ailing father but sees our kids for a weekend twice a month. Fast forward to the beginning of November this year. My neighbor rocked up at my doorstep to tell me that her husband was catfishing women on dating apps, using my husband's photos. He downloaded these photos from a MacBook that we lent him during COVID, and some of these photos were of intimate nature, and of me. The police are currently dealing with this. All of this has been relayed to my husband through his lawyer, but his response has been lukewarm, and he said we could talk about it over Christmas. I am so scared that we might be too far down the rabbit hole, and that he will likely push for a divorce. Even though I know that we love each other deeply, but this took a massive toll on our mental health, finances, and well-being of our 3 kids. What is the best way to approach him in December and make amends? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Wow, what a mess. I'm glad the police are involved in what that neighbor did. As for you and your husband, a lot is going to depend on 2 things. How much you both really do still love each other. How difficult it is for you both to have a truly serious, heart-wrenching, emotionally exhausting conversation. His logical side will likely understand why you thought it was true. After all, there were pictures. It would be easy to believe it was true. But his emotional side is going to be deeply hurt that you didn't believe him over the evidence. All you can do is sit down and try to work through it. Good luck to you. Thank you. I thought having a therapist present might help, but I have doubts and think it is better not to involve others. The aftermath was devastating for us both and more so for him when his friends and my family wrote him off. I still love him and never stopped, but I know it will be on his terms if he is willing to give it another chance. I am willing to do whatever it takes. What have you done to make amends and clear his name? Have you notified his friends and family that he was falsely accused and had been faithful the entire time? Has your family apologized? Has his friends reached out and apologized? Take a look at the definitions of regret that this happened versus remorse for the pain you caused them. I don't hear or feel remorse in your words, and I don't see remorse in your actions. Your husband experienced something that you will never understand. 1. False accusation. 2. An assault from your brother. 3. Spousal alienation. 4. No right of recourse against the false claim. 5. A complete lack of loyalty from his wife. 6. A complete lack of respect from his wife. 7. The loss of his life he had from a false allegation. 8. Parental alienation from his children. 9. Familial alienation from his in-laws. 10. Alienation from his friends. 11. The police were called and he had to leave. 12. You separated from him. 13. Your husband has already completed his grieving process. You ask, are you too far down the rabbit hole? Yes. I am afraid there is no going back for you. You chose to not listen to him when he said it was not him. I agree. I don't think there's coming back from that. I understand you had reasons to believe he might be cheating, but it seems he had no chance to defend himself. And getting your family involved made everything even worse. He was hit and was told to leave his house by the police. Has been living away from his kids for the past 14 months and has been treated as a villain by friends. You say you love him, but I don't think love could erase everything you two have been through and rebuild trust. If Opie had posted here when she originally got the message and found his profile, I guarantee everyone would be telling her she was stupid to believe her husband saying it wasn't him, and that she'd be back here in 6 months with an STD. It's weird how self-righteous people are being now with the benefit of knowledge she didn't have. And now for the update. Hello everyone. I have had quite a few people ask for an update on what happened after we discovered that my neighbor was using my ex's photos to catfish other women. Unfortunately, after having sat down and discussed things, it was decided that our marriage was beyond repair and that we should go our separate ways. He is currently in therapy and has requested that we have a clean break with no future contact in the future. I intend to respect his wishes and will continue to communicate through his lawyers on matters that concern our kids. I have since cleared the air with our families and friends and still actively works towards repairing his reputation. I would also like to clarify the attack and why my parents came over in the first place. The night of the argument, I called my mother to ask if I could drop off our kids and if they could spend the evening there, but she was concerned about my emotional state and asked that I stay put and they would come to fetch the kids instead. They arrived, and my brother opted to stay outside while my parents came inside to grab the kids and their bags. At this point, my father asked to talk to my ex and calm the situation, and my mom dragged me away to get the kids and their bags ready. My brother was very confused when we came outside and was triggered by my mom saying that my ex might have cheated. My brother reacted the moment my ex walked out and grabbed my arm in a non-violent way, leading to the punch and scuffle on the front lawn. He was remorseful and apologized even before we found out my ex was not to blame. It is a series of unfortunate events that has changed many lives and robbed my family of our love and happiness. Now, I have to focus on my kids, my depression, and coming to terms with a divorce. I will never forget, but hopefully the pain won't be as intense. I feel so horrible for your husband. He needed help. He was a victim. He needed his wife, the one person who should always be by his side. And instead, you divorced him and allowed a brother who would be triggered by events to be there. He was hurt. He lost his family and he lost his wife. My heart breaks for him. What do you mean coming to terms with a divorce? You refused to hear him out. What is there to come to terms with? The fact you wouldn't hear him out? Please, if you ever cared for him, even the tiniest bit, do not attempt to rekindle with him. He may be desperate and go for it, but he needs to heal. He needs to find someone who will genuinely back him, love him, and trust him. You've done a lifetime of damage to him. Edit. You say, it is a series of unfortunate events that has changed many lives and robbed my family of our love and happiness. But it was your lack of belief in your husband, refusing to hear him out, and either spreading the lie or allowing the lie to be spread that destroyed his life, your kids' lives, and robbed them of their love and happiness. Quit acting like you were powerless in all this. You could have heard him out, let him prove it wasn't him, and tried to find a different path. Instead, you rocked up with a violent brother and took the kids. You either allowed lies to spread uncontested or spread them yourself. The man will be much better away from you. Recommend this place to those who are considering living with you. Let them read what you wrote. Let them know that you started a conflict by manipulating everyone. And now you are narcissistic enough to act as if everything happened by itself and you are the victim. You didn't explain to your family what you said on the phone. If you hadn't manipulated them, the whole family and your brother wouldn't come to pick up the kids. I guess this is the first time your brother has attacked someone. And don't try to hide yourself. You're a lousy person. I would be carrying that neighbor to court for identity theft, digital theft, revenge crime, and emotional damages for destroying my marriage. Oh yeah, that would be my first course of action soon as I heard of it. Since OP has already been talking to and through a lawyer, I don't think it'd be crazy to ask either who could help her in this case. Oh my god, this is awful. What do you bet that the bastard neighbor gets a slap on the wrist? Hopefully not, but I would not be surprised if that was the case. I do hope they at least sue the heck out of him. Hopefully OP put neighbor on blast on Facebook, next door, the local newspaper, etc. I would go 100% nuclear revenge at that point. Next story. Update. I introduced my brother-in-law to the woman he cheated on my sister with. Original post. I, 23 female, feel like such a jerk. My sister Gwen, 38 female, has been married to Jacob, 39 male, for 10 years. I've had a best friend, Ellie, 21 female, since middle school. She's always been around, but in 2020, I started inviting her around more because her mom died of COVID, so she didn't have any family around. So I invited her to holiday parties, family get-togethers, etc., so she'd feel part of a family. Then last night, we found out from texts my sister found in Jacob's phone that he's been sleeping with Ellie, and she might be pregnant. My sister is devastated and took their kids to come live with our parents. I feel so guilty. I'm the one who brought her around and invited her to stuff. I feel like it's all my fault. My sister's life is ruined. Her kids are really upset, but I don't know what else I can do other than say sorry. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You aren't responsible for that. Your friend probably wouldn't have gotten involved with your brother-in-law if her mother hadn't died. Her age and grief made it easier to take advantage of her. Are you going to continue being friends? If she's really pregnant and they're really together, it means she'll be the mother of my nephew's half-sibling. So I don't want to say anything to her until I figure out what my sister wants me to do. She looked at your sister and your nephews, then slept with your brother-in-law. That is the deal breaker in my opinion. She can't say he lied to her about being married or any of the rest. I'm not going to still be friends with her, obviously. I'm just saying I'm not saying anything to her. This isn't even remotely your fault. Ellie was barely an adult when this started, and it seems as if she's been around since her preteen years. She has no family, and it seems as if she has been groomed. Your brother-in-law's a predator, and this is not your fault. What a mess. I would try to get her side to the story, though. Don't take away the responsibility from Ellie as well. She is as much of an adult, and quite frankly, a horse's butt. Now for the update. So in the first post, I detailed that my brother-in-law Jacob, 39 male, cheated on my older sister Gwen, 38 female, with my best friend Ellie, 21 female, after 10 years. We found out when Gwen found texts on Jacob's phone from Ellie talking about how she was pregnant. My sister is still really upset. She's not doing well at all. The kids all have a really good relationship with Jacob, so that didn't make it easier. They were asking about him constantly and crying for him. She went back home 2 days ago. She's living in the main part of the house while he's living in a garage apartment. My sister asked me to talk to Ellie to find out as much of her side as we can. She is pregnant, and apparently her and Jacob have been dating a while. He told her my sister had a drinking problem and was emotionally abusive to him and the kids. I told her that was all a lie, and if she really thought that was true, why wouldn't she talk to me about it? She said she thought I'd lie for my sister. I know you all probably think I'm crazy because I'm so emotional when I'm not usually, but I'm so sad for my sister. But also, I feel guilty because I also just sat down and sobbed the other day. Because she was my best friend for so many years, and she must completely lied and misled me and made up stories to keep her dating him a secret. She wasn't really my friend at all, and I had no idea. And I know this is about my sister and her kids and not me, but I feel so sad about that. A lot of people seemed confused about when they met. 2020 was just when her mother died and I started bringing her to big family events, holidays and stuff. Jacob and Ellie have known each other since me and her became friends when we were kids, because my sister was still living at home when they started dating. I wouldn't ever say that him and Ellie were particularly close or anything, so I don't know if any grooming or anything like that happened. Ellie doesn't have any family, so I don't know who would even look for proof of that or not. My sister has already hired a lawyer. Jacob says he's sorry about the infidelity, but says he's ready to move on with Ellie. Everything just really sucks now. The only one who doesn't seem affected by any of this is Jacob, who has just been acting completely normal and just hanging out with the kids a lot. My sister said he almost seems cheerful about all of this. To hell with Jacob and Ellie. I just don't know how they could lie to us for so long. Because they don't have a conscience. Also, don't believe Ellie for a second about what brother-in-law said about your sister. If she has known you since middle school and has been around the last couple years, she has seen firsthand their interactions. I call it a huge pile of horse manure, and she's just a horrible human being. Well, a snake. She bites the hand that feed her. Harp and Ellie all you want. She's a deliberate homewrecker, liar, and a terrible friend. But don't ignore Jacob in this. The man cheated on his loving wife, the mother of his children, with a girl who was underage when he met her in his early 30s. He was an adult when she was born, and he lied to her to get in her pants. Then he didn't even use protection. What a POS. Honestly, don't worry about Jacob and Ellie, and cut off contact with them both. There's no reason you need to be in their lives anymore, and they'll get what's coming to them. Ellie has no mother, and has saddled herself with a guy who is 18 years older than her, and lies and cheats for 18 plus years. Her hell will be here as soon as he finds another barely legal adult to cheat on her with. Not to mention she's giving up her entire young adulthood for this. Jacob may seem unaffected now, but he's going to have a world of hurt coming his way with all the legal and financial requirements that come with a divorce, with proof of infidelity if you're in a state that cares about that, child support, and possibly alimony. He will eventually go through the same thing with Ellie when he knocks up either one of her friends, or some other almost teenage girl that he's manipulated into believing Ellie's a terrible person. Basically, their lives in a relationship are a ticking time bomb before they implode because of each other's crappiness. None of this is your fault. If it wasn't Ellie, Jacob would have found some other girl with emotional issues to suck her into an affair with. Don't worry about them. They'll get what's coming to them. Focus on supporting your sister through all of this and helping however you can. It will get better for you, her, and her kids over time if you all look out for each other. Good luck. You can be emotional for yourself and the own betrayal you went through from your best friend while still being sympathetic and sad for your sister. Don't feel guilty for that. Events like this don't just affect one person. It is obviously going to affect you, your sister, her kids, likely your parents, but all to varying degrees. I'm sorry you had to find out your friend did not value your friendship this way. If she had valued your friendship, she wouldn't have had a relationship with your married brother-in-law. Whether she was groomed or not, it's not your responsibility now to figure any of that out. Thank you. It's just a really hard time, so I think I just don't know what I feel bad about.
Update. Am I the a-hole for not helping my daughter? Original post. My daughter, a 22 female, went no contact with me 2 years ago. Before this happened, I was warning her about this guy she was dating who was full of red flags. He bombed her and isolated her from her family and friends. She dropped out of college despite my pleas to reconsider. She decided to move in with him, and since then, I never heard from her directly, but she would often ask my family members to ask me for money. The last thing I heard about her is that she has a 1-year-old child and her life is basically falling apart. The love of her life turned out to be a monster, and she is working 2 jobs to keep her family afloat. The friends she abandoned are now done with college and starting new careers in corporate, while she works at a dollar store and does Uber. A family member showed me a screenshot of my daughter's Facebook post, basically calling me an a-hole for not stepping up and helping her. She also ranted about me not supporting her to finish college, unlike her friends' parents. I don't have much extra money and I am saving for retirement. She dropped out when I begged her not to. Plus, she also blocked my number. She knows where I live but has never attempted to drop by. Am I the a-hole for not reaching out and offering help? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Well, she got what she wanted. She lives with her beloved and she's the one who broke off the contact. She didn't give a damn about you. She pays for stupidity. Not the a-hole. Yeah, she did not give a damn about me. She only lives 10 minutes away, but never ever drops by to say hi, yet expects me to touch my life savings to help her out. I am thinking I could run out of money helping her, and when I need help, she won't be there at all. Your daughter hasn't learned a damn thing and isn't worth your money. The fact that she didn't try to talk to you and admit her screw-ups, but instead lied about you on Facebook to make herself look like an innocent victim is proof of that, not the a-hole. This is why I am so conflicted whether to help her or not. I feel like I should help, but it won't do her any good at all. She would probably expect me to help all the time till my savings run out. Your daughter is a narcissist and is trying to manipulate others into helping her because her parent is an a-hole for not stepping up and helping her, while she never even attempted to make contact. Not the a-hole. It's sad, but it happens far too often. It's also sad that nowadays it is so easy for people to go no contact, but still expects you to reach out and help no matter what. Now for the update. Thanks everyone for your input. I sent a message to my daughter via a family member on Facebook and my son, and they both came to my house last night for dinner. I told them it was an open forum where we could air our grievances against each other, and from there, we would sort it out. Daughter hates me for not trying hard enough to reach out to her when she moved in with her boyfriend. She also hates that I never tried to accept her boyfriend. My reason is that she decided to drop out and be an adult. I felt disrespected by the hurtful things she said, and by blocking me, I got the message she did not want me around. I can never accept her boyfriend. He cheated on her many times and does not work. I am disgusted. Son hates me for not giving him the extra money I had saved for the rest of my daughter's college. He also said that if I didn't want to give it to him, I could have given it to her when she got pregnant. The reason is that I paid for his college too. Since my daughter did not finish, whatever extra money I had saved for her tuition, I moved it to my retirement savings. Why would I give it to him when I already paid for his education too? He graduated with 0 student loans. Also, why would I give it to her just because she got pregnant? Being an adult means you are responsible for your decisions. Me? I am disappointed that my daughter dropped out, moved in with her boyfriend, got pregnant, and is now living a hard life. I told her I worked my butt off to give her a good life, and that she was my little princess. I never wanted her to experience hardship in life, but she chose this life, and this is her reality now. I'm disappointed at my son for cutting me off and disrespecting me when I try to reach out. All in all, we were civil, but they suggested that I get a reverse mortgage so they can get their inheritance early, and that would help them buy their own houses. I said I would think about it. Yes, the classic, let's air grievances so we can hit you with new ways to disappoint us strategy. You're not the a-hole for standing your ground, but let's not sugarcoat it. Your kids are treating you like an ATM with a guilt trip feature. Your daughter expects you to welcome her chronically unfaithful, unemployed boyfriend with open arms, while your son seems to think extra money means my money now. And a cherry on top? They want you to risk your financial security so they can buy houses. Bold move, considering their track records in adulting. You've done your part. You funded their education, or attempted to, reached out despite being blocked, and hosted them for dysfunctional dinner. If they want to play the "you're a bad parent" card, remind them that being a parent doesn't mean you're obligated to enable bad decisions or jeopardize your future. Keep that retirement fund intact. Sounds like you'll need it for peace of mind. This was a hostage meeting. They're withholding contact and affection unless OP pays them off. Having your college paid for is a freaking gift most kids would be grateful for, but the son is mad at dad because 1, he didn't get the balance of his sister's college fund, and 2, some weird convoluted grievance on his sister's behalf. It's all about the money. If they got it, they'd still be low contact with OP, not the a-hole. Oh hell no! You paid in full for your son's college, but that's not enough for him? She ignored solid, loving advice and cut you off, and she thinks it's your fault for not reaching out to her. So you should jeopardize your future to benefit these greedy, immature, and selfish people who will absolutely not be in a position to help you should you need it as you age? It's hard for a parent to refuse to help, but you must. You have done more than enough, and they have to grow up. Her reasoning was, parents should let the kids make mistakes and then help them pick up the pieces. I said, heck no. My duty is to make sure you don't make life-altering mistakes. She said nobody's perfect, and people make mistakes and that's part of life. Ugh. Lol, screw them. They're already talking about getting inheritance from you, as in you dying? Entitled little shits. I wouldn't give them anything. Yeah, that's very entitled. Also, I am only in my early 60s. My house is paid off, but getting a reverse mortgage is risky. Don't do it at all. You have paid off that house with your hard work, only to go into debt again? Come on. Yeah, I am not going to do it. Their reasoning is that boomers had it good, since we can afford a house. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my deadbeat father's wife and daughter to leave me the heck alone? My dad walked out on me and my mom when I, 19 male, was a baby. He didn't pay child support, never saw me, didn't show up at court at any point, and never reached out to me. I always had questions about him, but my mom was always way too nice about it until I turned 18 and she laid it all out for me. She even showed me the file she had for court that showed all the times he didn't show up, how much money he owed, and the fact she chased after child support for years, but he always found a way to avoid paying. For 6 years, she tried to chase him through court until she gave up the fight and let the debt compile because it was costing her money and was taking from her ability to support us. He was the truest definition of a deadbeat. I have nothing good to say and no interest in establishing a relationship of any kind. In September, I got a friend request from this woman on Facebook. We had no friends in common, so I ignored it. Then I rejected it. She sent it again, so I accepted because I found it weird. A day later, a request came from a girl and I rejected that. But just like the other account, she sent it again. I saw they were friends, so I left it ignored. Then, a DM came from the account I had accepted a request from. Turns out, this was my deadbeat father's wife and oldest daughter. They wanted to find me because they felt I should know my family, and that I was now old enough to decide for myself. I told them I wasn't interested and to please leave me alone. I unfriended the wife and blocked both accounts and went private. But my Facebook is linked to my Instagram, and the daughter tried to reach me there. She said I didn't know the truth and deserved it, and how she and her siblings always wanted to know their older brother, and how her whole family was hoping we could all come together as a family. I blocked her there and ignored it. The daughter found another account of mine on another platform and has pestered me there ever since. It's constant new accounts, and I have reported some. I tried replying once more, saying I'm sorry she got her hopes up, but I'm not interested. The next day, I had messages from both the mother and daughter, saying my mom was the reason I didn't know my deadbeat father, and how she was abusive and awful and he had to leave. He hated walking away, but claimed she was dangerous and awful to be around, and I deserved to know the kind of thing I was raised by. And yeah, his daughter called my mom a thing. I responded that they were making a lot of accusations and defending him so much, but he left me with a supposedly abusive mother and made no attempt to save me from it in 19 years. And that tells me all I need to know about that man. I said once again they needed to leave me alone, and I wasn't going to have a relationship with any of them. I thought they were finally going to leave me alone. But then before Christmas, I got a long message from the two of them that basically gave me the sob story of a man who loved me, but feared my life would be worse if he stayed, and I'd be abused worse, and how he hoped my mom would abuse me less if he wasn't around. I didn't even address the rest. I told them to leave me the heck alone before I go to the police for harassment. I told them I would if they pushed it. The wife flipped out on me and said how dare I speak to them in such an abusive way, and clearly I'm a mother's son. She told me I should be ashamed of speaking to a teenager that way, who did nothing but try to love me. She is so mad that I had to turn my phone off because I kept getting notified of all these messages. I tried to stop them contacting me there, but the feature to stop them seems to be wonky on my account. I did go to the police, but I need to keep all of the messages going forward to make a case for anything. What I had wasn't enough. So yeah, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You stated your boundaries and they should respect them because at the end of the day, you get the last say, not them. You should just block them everywhere and put this behind you because they have no right to disrespect you like that. Sorry if my comment is a bit off the hinge. This post just made me a bit mad. They keep making new accounts on this platform since I can't stop non-followers from DMing me on there. The feature does nothing. Go after your deadbeat father for the accumulated child support. That might shut them up. Exactly. Just because you're of age now doesn't mean that debt goes away. Some deadbeat parents and their enablers believe the financial slate is wiped clean, and it is not. Even though my son is 34, my calculations are my son and I are still owed more than $60,000. Go get your bank, because you'll get your peace. He left because she was abusive, but never paid child support, presumably get paid under the table to avoid getting garnished, and has never actually reached out himself? Yeah, he is full of shit. Correct. Didn't even reach out when they found me online. Not the a-hole. I would look into any services that will help you go after him for the back child support. Maybe you can get his license taken away or his wages garnished since he wants to harass you through his wife and kid. Even if it's not him leading this, I've talked to my mom about trying. We both agree either he screwed himself over or his wife and their daughter did. But either way, we don't care, and he needs to pay now. Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my family/parents for leaving on a trip when I was being induced to deliver my stillborn son? I was 28 weeks pregnant with my second child, my son, when he passed, and I had to schedule an induction. My parents were set to leave on a trip/cruise the day before. This trip was booked before I even became pregnant. They told me they couldn't cancel because they booked this trip with a group of relatives and would worry that these relatives would get lost without them. I acknowledged that I never spoke up to ask them to stay. I didn't want to beg anyone to be there for me. My parents were supposed to watch our daughter 7 when it was time for the birth. Since this was sudden and with my parents leaving, we were scrambling to arrange care. I was in the hospital for 3 days. My cousins came to visit and my parents called, thanked them for being there for me, and explained that they couldn't cancel their trip. It felt wrong that my parents were thanking other people for being there for me during the most traumatic time of my life. Nothing could ever make me get on a flight and leave my daughter if she was going through this. My parents were also posting pictures and videos on social media the entire length of their trip, knowing what I was going through back home. My parents came home from their trip a week before the funeral. I didn't talk to them at all. I answered one of my mom's calls and said I'd consider forgiving them if they both apologized. She said sorry and that her trip was terrible because she lost her luggage. That if she could do it over again, she wouldn't go because of her lost luggage. I told her they're bad parents, and I haven't picked up another one of her calls since. My dad hasn't tried to reach out. Some context. My parents also weren't there when my daughter was born. They went on a trip, which they booked after I was pregnant and left 2 days before my due date. I had an emergency C-section and complications with that delivery. I'm the eldest of 3, and my parents have always treated me differently. Worse, my sister is the golden child. This is not to diminish the childhood trauma my siblings experienced on their own. My sister and her fiancé think I'm being harsh/an a-hole. They think that this one thing doesn't make them bad parents. My sister's fiancé says he wouldn't have canceled a trip. They don't think my parents being there for me would have made a difference. When I said this is the worst thing my parents have done to me, they disagreed. I felt invalidated by them, so I cut them off too. They can't understand why I've cut them off and say they were questioning me to understand my feelings and trying to help me get over it by sharing their perspectives. My sister said she likes hearing others' perspectives and opinions, so I guess I should too? They don't get how my anger toward my parents is part of my grief. So am I the a-hole for being mad at my parents for not canceling their trip that was booked well before I was pregnant? Am I the a-hole for cutting off my sister and her fiancé for voicing their opinions? That lost luggage comment was so incredibly cold. You are losing nothing by cutting them out of your life. These people are strangers to you. That, along with this from the sister and her fiancé. When I said this is the worst thing my parents have done to me, they disagreed. How dare they decide what OP feels is hurtful? Just out of morbid curiosity, what actions were worse than abandoning you during this time? Not the a-hole, and your sister is nuts. They think the way my parents reacted to me telling them the news I was pregnant with my daughter was worse. My parents shamed me and berated me and basically told me I'd accomplished nothing in life. I was living apart from them with my husband already, and I was 27, with my own career. I don't feel that was worse than this, but they do. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but you told them you understand that they can't cancel the trip, then got mad when they proceeded to go on the trip? You need to assert yourself. You can't say one thing and expect the other. I never told them I understood. They told me they couldn't cancel, and it was clear they weren't going to, so I didn't say anything. I was in shock at a time and just trying to survive. Asking people to be there for me was the last thing on my mind, to be honest. From what you've said so far, I don't think asking them to stay would have changed anything. They were already giving you reasons why they couldn't cancel without you asking them. The luggage comment is just the icing on the cake. Stick with people who have empathy. If you want to have your sister back, tell her the subject of your parents is literally a dead issue as far as you are concerned. I am so sorry for your loss.
Update. My stepdad turned my family against me. Original post. So let me start this off by saying I apologize for how long this may be. My dad passed when I was 15. Him and my mom weren't all that close by that time, so while it hit me hard, she wasn't as phased as you'd expect. I joined the military when I was 17, and in my first year out of the house, my mom remarried. I never really vibed with the guy, just had different personalities and such. He would often make snide remarks and tell me to man up about any inconvenience I'd be upset about. This led to spats between us, and I was often just as at fault as he was for these disagreements, though it never got too serious. I got medically discharged after a little under 5 years, and my mom and him said they'd be happy to have me back in the house. I told them it'd be brief, just until I got on my feet and got a job. I'd even offered to pay rent, to which they declined. About 3 days into being back home, my stepdad got alone with me, asked what he thought a fair rent would be. I was confused, but it was his house, so we came to an agreement, and I kept it from my mom, assuming he did not want her to know, as he never mentioned it around her. I never asked for anything from them, not out of spite. I just wanted to do things myself. He had a son from a previous marriage. Him and I didn't share many common interests or anything, but I never had any issues with him. I'd say we got along. The only thing is, he was given a lot from them. Paid for his schooling, paid for his car, paid for his living arrangements through college and even after. I was a little less than a year older than him, so we started college right after they married. But like I said, I didn't want or need help. But it felt lame that he'd get all that assistance and I was immediately asked for rent. But I digress. I moved out after 3 months and not long after, met a girl who I was crazy about, and we started dating. It was my first relationship. And I was over the moon the entire time, like in that early relationship haze, but it was just constant. I was very nervous to bring her home. My mom and I were very close, and I always worried she'd be very judgmental of the girl I'd bring home. My worries ended up being unwarranted though. They got along extremely well. My girlfriend does not have a family really. Long story. So my mom and stepdad became like that for her. Her and my mom hit it off extremely well, to the point they were hanging out just the two of them at times, and it made me extremely happy. My stepdad even really liked her, and I felt it brought us closer together, which isn't something I felt I wanted until we were. His dad abandoned his family growing up, and he put himself through school and got a nice high-paying job all by himself, which I had immense respect in him for. About a year in, I knew this was the girl I was going to marry. I told my mom and stepdad and they both seemed extremely happy. She was practically part of the family already. My mom then gave me her engagement ring, my dad gave her which she kept. The job I had didn't pay great, so I figured even if it wasn't the ring she'd always have, it would be a great placeholder. But when I proposed, my girlfriend told me it wasn't a placeholder, and she absolutely loved it. I was legitimately never happier in my life. We started wedding planning, and my mom and stepdad said they'd help take care of the finances. It was the first time they'd offered to help me financially, and it really meant a lot. Fast forward to about 3 months later, I got a call from my stepdad who said I needed to come over. Felt a bit ominous, but I went over there after work. When I got there, my mom, stepdad, stepbrother, and fiancé, I saw her on the couch and could tell she had been crying. I immediately thought someone had died and went to go sit next to her when my stepdad stopped me. He started hitting me with accusations of me cheating on her for our entire relationship. I was puzzled and told everyone there I don't even text any women I'm not related to besides her. Apparently, some girl had gotten my fiancé's number and told her that we were sleeping together for over a year now, but she didn't know I was in a committed relationship. She sent her screenshots of alleged conversations and knew stuff about me that a random person wouldn't know. I, like a fool, couldn't see what was happening in front of me. I was stunned, saddened, and furious. I begged her from across the room to look at my phone and see I'd never done any of that. Her and my mother were both weeping and I started to cry. My stepdad called me every word he could think of and escorted me out of the house while telling me if he saw me on his property again, he'd call the police. I spent the next several weeks trying to contact them to no avail. Calls, texts, voicemails, every messaging app out there, nothing. After those weeks, I got a call from my stepdad who told me to stop trying to contact her and that I was never welcome in his house or around his family again. I tried to call my mother over this time to no avail as well. After about a month, all I got from anyone was a text from my mother saying how sad and disappointed she was. My mom didn't really have much family, so they always spent holidays with my stepdad's side. They all shunned me as well. I saw their Christmas pictures on Facebook with my ex-fiancé present and seemingly in good spirits, which crushed me. The only family I had that would talk to me at all was my dad's brother and his family. Despite that, even they all seemed wary of me too. The only one that I think truly believed me was my uncle. I don't think I'd have made it without him, honestly. He showed me what I'd been missing in fatherly love, and I've never been so grateful for anyone. About 6 months after it all, I moved away from the East Coast and settled out in California, needing to get away from it all. A little less than a year after I moved, I got a call from an area code from back home, which I rarely got anymore. I picked up, and it was my stepbrother, whom I promptly hung up on. He called me back and I ignored it, but it stuck with me all day. I decided that if he called back again, I'd pick up, which he did later that night. It was awkward at best. He told me my fiancé was really torn up for a long time. It took her nearly a year to even start looking again for a significant other, when I hadn't at all since it ended. A few months into her doing so, my stepdad encouraged him to ask her on a date, which he did. Things went okay for the first couple outings, but never really clicked apparently. He told my stepdad about that, and the idiot told him, I didn't get rid of Opie for nothing. She's a great girl. You need to figure it out with her. I almost collapsed, and it was quickly replaced with anger. Apparently, he had gotten a girl who I didn't know to pose as someone I had an affair with and forged some message screenshots to have her sent to my fiancé. Stepbrother told me he'd said it to him about a month ago, and he didn't know what to do. Apparently, it bothered him enough that he couldn't just sit on the info anymore, so he told me and said he was going to tell my mom and fiancé the next day. He called me first as a courtesy, so he knew what to say to them regarding me. I told him where I was and that I'd appreciate it if they didn't immediately contact me, so I had some time to digest it all. That was last Tuesday. I just texted him and told him I was ready to talk to them if they wanted to, and that they could call me tomorrow. I really don't know what I'm gonna say, or them for that matter. I expect some tears and a good number of apologies among other things. I don't really know if I'm ready to give forgiveness or anything like that. The only person I've told so far is my uncle, who I've asked to keep it to himself. Sorry again for how long this was. My therapist just had picked the wrong week to go on vacation and I needed to vent. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Your stepfather is a truly awful, insecure, small-minded man. Just my 2 cents, but you should always stay no contact with him. He will never be on your side. You might be able to understand why ex-fiancé believed what she did, and even forgive her, but that does not mean you should re-establish any type of relationship. That boat sailed when she didn't believe you, or give you a chance to prove your innocence. There are plenty of other women out there for you to meet, who aren't easily manipulated, or dragging the baggage of faithlessness with them. So sorry for all the pain this has caused. But as long as your stepfather is in the picture, your own life will be much happier without any of them in it. Wow, man. This sure is a lot for you to process. I'm glad everyone found out the truth now, and you have every right to take your time to rebuild the relationships that were destroyed, if that's what you want to do. I highly suggest you start therapy too, and we would love to hear from you again. Started therapy after moving last year and most definitely have benefited from it. Now for the first update. Sorry for the delay. Busy day at work and obviously a lot of other stuff on my mind. My stepbrother called me this morning and told me exactly what happened this past week. So apparently, what my stepfather said wasn't exactly what he told me. He elaborated more and said he was very careful with his words so as to not incriminate himself. Per him, heavily and very clearly implying what he did without directly saying what he did. Thing about my stepbrother is, he's much smarter than me. Instead of just walking to my mother and fiancé with that and getting into a shouting match with his dad, he took a different course that I wouldn't have thought of. He got a hold of my ex's phone and found a girl. Said it took him forever to backtrack it. He gave her a call and got her to meet him out in public. And that's where it all came to head. She was a Tinder match with my stepfather, which I think pretty clearly indicates that he had been sleeping around on my mom. That irritated me even more for obvious reasons. This girl alleges they did not sleep together. However, whether that is the truth did not matter to me. What does is my stepbrother talked to her and pulled on her heartstrings with a story and all that had happened. For the record, she clearly knew what she was doing. Maybe the time at hearing what had happened to me really shook her up, but again, it doesn't matter to me. She told him what happened. $1,000 for a phone call. That was the deal. He told her what to say and supplied the pictures of evidence. She made a call and that was that. My stepbrother asked her if she could tell my mother and ex, and even offered to pay her again for the record. She agreed to do it for free and that happened on yesterday. My stepfather is on a business trip until Wednesday, so it was the four of them there. She came in and spilled it all to my mom and ex. Stepbrother said a tear started almost immediately from all three of them. After everything, he told them I was in California and that he'd tell them when I wanted to be contacted. This was before I texted him. A little backstory for you guys to try to understand some stuff about my mother and ex-fiancé. And this is in no way defending their actions, just to help some folks understand. My mother and I were inseparable after my dad passed. We were each other's rock. When I turned 16, I began to drink to kind of dull it all a bit. I told my mom we'd spend New Year's together the year I was 16, but ended up out with my friends drunk as all hell. I got a text from my mom who spent the night alone at home, and that was when we were never quite the same. She sent me a text about how sad she was all alone, and I felt like really bad over it. I stopped drinking that day until after everything went to hell. She's the type of person to always need someone. She can't handle being alone. I think when her and my dad's love began to fade, I filled that void. And when I was growing and ended up leaving home, my stepfather filled that void. Then my ex. As I said earlier, she doesn't have a family really. She had some real trust issues due to this, along with some really nasty past relationships. Despite this, she never would talk badly about past boyfriends, which I really admired. One was physically abusive, and I consider that an obvious exception. I, despite being debilitatingly shy, have been often told that I'm cute, especially by younger girls, meaning younger than me, not children. I never liked that title, as it's not very masculine, but got over it and learned to appreciate my boyish face and how often I would blush. My fiancé is just shy of 3 years older than me. I've always preferred older girls, had never given much time or thought to the girls who seemingly liked me because they were 18 to 20. This didn't stop the attention which upset my fiancé. She'd often ask why I wasn't interested in these girls, why I didn't leave her for someone younger and prettier, etc. I always found her extremely attractive, significantly more attractive than me honestly, and would always reiterate that to her, and that I never cared about any other girl. Okay, sorry to get off track. That again I hope brings a little insight to why I think they did what they did and believed what they believed. Again, this is not an excuse for them, nor am I really all that understanding personally. At the end of the call with my brother, he said they both wanted to call today, and I told him that'd be fine, so I sat and waited. By about 3 p.m., I was a little confused. I started to wonder if he'd made it all up to mess with me. It really worried me honestly. Then I got a text from him asking if I was all good, and I said yeah, and asked if they were actually planning on calling today. He said they'd been trying for the last few hours. I blocked them both when I moved out west and forgotten. Why I didn't block him, I don't know. I'm thankful I didn't though. So I unblocked them both and got a call from my mom about 10 minutes later. First thing she said was I sounded different. I almost hung up right then. Took all I had to just say yeah. She broke down immediately after that. I really thought I'd feel more, I'd be lying if I said I felt nothing, but the pain of it all just took hold of me more than her words. She asked if I'd gotten her texts. I said no. I guess she'd been trying to text over the last year, but I had her number blocked. If she really wanted to reach me, she could have. Maybe that's a little crappy, but I know it's true. I pretty much told her that I'd be willing to build some semblance of a relationship back with time, and she was happy with that. She also told me she was getting all her necessities out of the house before my stepfather got home, and she'd be filing for divorce immediately. I believe her too. She may be a poor excuse for a mother in my eyes, but she's never been someone to take half measures. I really wish I could be there to see that prick's face when he comes back to an empty home. My ex got the phone next and did the same tearful apologies my mom did. I felt a little more with her. I actually tried to get her to think and remember how many times I told her I'd never do that to her and how much I loved her, and she was beside herself. And to be honest, I'm glad. We talked for about half an hour and I really thought it was pleasant. Even though I told myself for over a year now that it would never happen again, thought there could still be something to us. She told me she still had a ring and it's made me upset, and just told her to give it to my mom, cause it didn't belong to either of us anymore. I could tell that really crushed her, and selfishly I wanted it too. She asked if she could call/text me. I told her it's fine, but to not expect a prompt response either way, which she understood. Pretty much gave her the same ultimatum as my mom, though I said any chances of us having a future relationship were very slim, which she said she understood too. I talked to my brother last and thanked him for everything he'd done. He was helping my mom get her stuff out of his father's house, apologized for all that happened, and told me he was going to go tell the rest of the family everything as well. Them, I have no connection to and won't say a word to, I don't imagine. Except my stepdad's mother, oldest person in either of the families, and she wished me a happy birthday and Merry Christmas over the last year. Maybe she was old enough that she doesn't care. Maybe she felt bad, but I'll talk to her odd as it is. Sorry for all the rambling. I fly home for my uncle's 60th birthday the first week of March. It'll be my first time home since I moved out here. I'll definitely plan on seeing my brother as well. I'm not adverse to seeing my mom and ex, but I've made it clear to them that I've got a lot of healing to do, and so do they. If anything further happens, I'll update again. Maybe after the trip home, but that looks like it for the time being. Also, this is kinda the last social media I have. I haven't been on here super often in the last year for the reasons I'm sure you could guess. I truly haven't seen any similar stories to mine that have been referenced in the comments, though I'd like to if you can find them. Thank you, everyone. Second update. I got a call from a number back home. I deleted most of my numbers a while ago from anyone I wasn't talking with. I picked up and it was my stepfather. He said hello and I hung up, then blocked the number. I immediately called my mom, fiancé, and brother. They're all safe and not around him. Mom is in a hotel that he doesn't know about. Fiancé and brother are at their own residences, and both say they feel adequately protected. He is not by any indication a violent man, but better safe than sorry. My brother said he got a call from him this morning when he got home after my mom wasn't there and wouldn't answer. Brother just told him what happened and not to contact any of them. Not sure how long he sat there, but he called me around 3 p.m. Pacific. Then about an hour ago, I got a message from a different number saying we need to talk. I assume that's him, and I haven't responded. That's the latest. Third update. Stepdad's mother called me. Had her number saved because of what I previously stated. Was a bit worried it may have been him trying to gather some info or something. It wasn't. She's a very sweet lady who did not have to be nice to me in any way, but has shown me compassion. She was very nice and wished me well while also apologizing on behalf of the family. I thanked her and wished her the best too. Shocking it came from that woman.